There's a big petition calling for this, that all pensioners should get a free TV licence. The number's 0207 862 2222. That's what the petition wants everyone to have. I wonder what you think. Well, let's start with you, Eve, on this one.
It's a wonderful idea. I don't suppose there's any chance of it happening because the BBC needs money. I mean, we all keep it going. And the BBC is very important. So I think it's a great idea. I think a reduction in the cost, perhaps for people over a certain age, might be very, very useful. Or certainly if you've got, you know, problems with paying it, you should be able to have the right to say, can I pay some of it? But I think the BBC needs the money because look at the rest of the world, look at all the streamers, look at all the money that's going into TV now. Very difficult, but I like the idea of it.
It's a good idea. I mean, the current situation...
Not that I'm over 66.
No, of course not. The current situation, if you're over 75, so pension age is 66, it's an awfully long time to wait, and you're means tested and you're on pension credit, then you get a reduced rate for your
well, that's fair, I
or
guess.
you don't have to pay for it, but it's an awfully long wait. Sarah, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea, and I feel like TV is a lifeline for some older people, for older generations. They've put into the system their entire lives, and it's nice to be able to give something back if that was an option. You know, sometimes that is the one thing, that routine of having their favourite show that they can watch every day, of feeling like they've got someone with them, a familiar face in their front room. They might be living alone, their spouse may have passed on. So I think if it's an option, I think it would be a great thing to be able to offer to older people.
And actually, the way you two have both described it, Marvyn, it sounds a bit as if it would be a great help with mental health. Yeah. You know, one more thing you don't have to worry about, company in your living room that is guaranteed, just a kind of nice gesture, but as Eve says, expensive for the BBC.
And I think my personal values are, we would love to provide all of these things to over 66. I think once you retire, we want to look after you as a nation. But I think everybody now wants everything to be mean tested. Everyone wants reform in terms of not wasting money on the public purse. And I do think that's a responsible thing to do. And I think from 66, we should start reducing the cost and mean testing it to make it much more accessible. But it can't be something that people can't afford and then they find themselves in isolation and without that really important company.
All right, let's go to Dean, who's on the line in... actually, it's Sean, sorry. Sean, who's on the line in Durham. Hello, Sean, how are you?
Hey,
what
Vanessa,
do you think?
I'll tell you what it is. The sooner the BBC gets abolished, the better, like. Because at the end of the day, people are being put in prison for not paying their TV licence. What kind of a country is this? What kind of a country is it? They're putting people in prison through not paying their TV licence.
But what kind of a country would it be, Sean, without the BBC? You know, the BBC provides all kinds of programmes that other companies wouldn't provide, doesn't it?
The BBC is so corrupt, right? It's unbelievable how corrupt the BBC is.
I mean, it's a very big assertion that you're making there when you call the whole of the BBC corrupt. Certainly, it's got a lot of issues going on at the moment, but I'm not sure corruption is necessarily one of them, is it?
Some of the programmes are absolutely pathetic, like the EastEnders. How many actors are in EastEnders? How much do they get? That is the worst programme on television. Do you know what it is?
And yet, Sean, as you're sitting on your sofa saying that EastEnders is the worst programme ever, still millions of people watch it every week.
The BBC have been shown adverts all their time, right? Every day. Oh, app this, tune into this, subscribe to this, the BBC channels and things like that. That is on BBC.
Yes, but that's the way of...
That is an advert.
Well, that's the way of signposting the product on the BBC, saying you might want to watch this, you might want to listen to this podcast. What about the BBC iPlayer? I mean, it's a way of just flagging up and signposting. They're not trying to sell you washing powder or cat food or deodorant. They're trying to sell you their own products, and they may say they're just kind of trying to keep you aware of them. Eve, what would you say to Sean, who just thinks the BBC ought to be abolished?
Well, he's right. People should not go to jail for not paying their licence fee. But there has to be some happy medium here. I think a lot of people feel the BBC have been in a lot of trouble lately. And I also feel a lot of people will say, I only watch programmes on apps or whatever, or I only listen to the radio. Yeah. The trouble is, do we or don't we want the BBC? You know, different days you feel different about it. I love the Wimbledon finals and watched every bit of it. There are certain things they do that perhaps nobody else would.
Well, exactly. Sean, David Attenborough, Strictly, Wimbledon, you know, all the wonderful things. And don't you turn it on sometimes for the news when you want to get a really big story and you think this will be good coverage? You don't ever find yourself wanting to watch the BBC ever at all?
Well, they're being put in prison, Pet. Why have they been put in prison?
OK, well, we know
Why
why,
have they
for
been
not paying the
put in-
licence fee. But thank you, Sean, very much.
because
Let's
it
go.
shouldn't-
Let's
it
move on to
shouldn't-
Derek. Derek's on the line in Northamptonshire. How do you feel about this, Derek?
Oh, good morning, Vanessa. Nice to be speaking to you
Nice
again.
to talk to you.
My view is that it would be possible to provide a free TV licence to pensioners, which I believe is the question being put. And I think it could be done by reducing the number of channels that the BBC has. Because I understand it has 8 channels. I'm old enough to remember when the BBC in the 50s had 1 channel and it didn't even broadcast all day long.
I remember.
And then in the 60s,
Yeah.
it had 2 channels and it still covered pretty well everything most people would be interested in. So I don't understand why they need to be broadcasting all round the clock on 8 channels.
Right, so you think if they diversified less, if they kind of narrowed the scope a bit, then that might fund older people having free TV licences. I mean, the story is you don't go to prison for not having the licence. You go to prison if you don't pay the fine for not having the licence. So that's the kind of technical details of the whole thing. Do you think Derek has a point? The BBC is too ambitious, the scope is too broad?
Yes, but I also think you get the most amount of content per pound than any other service. Like, I think Netflix price and the BBC license price are pretty similar. And if you think about how many radio, TV channels, local news, weather and events that you get off the BBC, it's a huge amount you get out of it for the amount of money you're putting in. And I do think it deserves to be preserved. When you travel abroad, the BBC is a brand in itself. If you say I work with for anywhere near it, people are much more respectful of you and your craft.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for calling. What do you think?
Hi, Vanessa and panel. What I think they should do away with it permanently for everybody.
And then how do you pay for the BBC?
They should put commercials on, like they do abroad, the BBC, which they're not telling people. They're raking millions in abroad. Why aren't they
Okay,
doing
but
it
I
in
mean,
that?
the sort of acceptable feeling about that, or accepted feeling, has always been that if you did that, if you were relying on commercials, you would have to make commercial television, and that would mean that sort of David Attenborough wouldn't be able to make his amazing programme because you'd never be able to justify the funding, and the same for lots of programmes that people think are incredibly worthwhile. You wouldn't get to see them; they would never get made.
But what about the funding of the commercials?
Well, because commercial television has to kind of pack in the bums on seats effectively, doesn't it? So it doesn't afford commercial broadcasters the luxury of making the sorts of programmes that the BBC can make.
But why aren't people told about the commercials? You know, what they advertise abroad, don't they, the BBC, worldwide?
Yeah.
They have commercials on them. Why not in this country?
Well, for the reason
Don't people get the right to know?
For the reason I've given
that?
you, in order to attract the commercials, you have to make the kind of television that advertisers want to advertise in the middle of, and also you have to, trim the costs to make it cost effective in a commercial sense, which the BBC has the luxury of not doing. The idea is it can then make minority interest programmes and very specific sorts of programmes that you couldn't make on ITV or Channel 5 or any other channel. Terry, thanks so much. Let's go to Lisa in Essex. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, hi, how are you doing?
I'm all right. What do you think about this? Do you think pensioners should get free TV licences?
I believe they should get free TV licences. My father's 89, worked all his life, and I don't believe he should pay. I think you should get the choice if you want BBC or not.
So you could say, I've got my telly, but I never watch the BBC, so I don't have to pay for the licence.
Yeah, I think you should get a choice. If you don't want the BBC on your TV, then you shouldn't have to have it on your TV.
Does your dad watch the BBC much, do you think?
No, not at all.
What does he like to watch? He's 89. What does he watch?
He watches the news, but not on BBC.
And do you think that he uses the TV as a kind of socialising thing, that it's very important for him to have it and to watch it?
Yes, I do. I believe he's on his own. He's 89 and it's a bit of company having the television on, so he does need a TV.
And what about the idea that, as Eve says, the BBC needs the money and we need the BBC?
I don't believe the BBC do need the money. personally.
Well, how are they going to run without the licence fee money?
I suppose, but I think pensioners shouldn't have to pay. Possibly everybody else, that working people and that can afford it. But pensioners don't get enough money to live on. They have to run houses, pay the bills on their own. And I don't feel pensioners are rich. I did see on that someone does feel pensioners are rich, but in my father's case, he isn't. So, I think it should be maybe decide on whether people can or can't afford it.
Lisa, thank you. Marvyn, are you thinking that most people that you know don't even watch television on television? Whatever they watch on other devices anyhow?
That is definitely a big part of the big shift and a big question. But I do think the sheer amount of content across all the different platforms is so valuable. And as kind of identified earlier, the best of it does get sold worldwide and is very, very profitable. So BBC Worldwide is a very profitable department within the BBC. And it could only make that content, as you rightly said, if it's going to make the bet because they know that it's in the public interest. So some of the best works in this country that we're very well known for globally probably wouldn't get made, and definitely wouldn't get made in the same way. It'll be led by commercial decisions and volume. We'll have more reality TV and Love Islands, which I don't think we need more of.
So I've got to say, I'm watching Love Island. I'm absolutely riveted. Have you been anyone else watching it? Just me then? Oh, well. I haven't missed a single one. If anybody wants me to write a dissertation, a learned academic, I could do it now.
Maybe a walk on parts.
I'd love to be in it. I love it.
Amazing.
I'm absolutely riveted by it. If Shakespeare were living at this hour, believe me, he'd either be in it or he'd be watching. I'm telling you, it's fabulous. Let's go to Frances on the line in London. Hi, Frances.
Hello.
So you've got a theory about what's going wrong with the BBC. What's happening that you don't think is right?
Yeah, well, what I don't think is right is that the TV licence needn't be as expensive as it is. What is wrong is that the BBC are paying TV presenters far too much. They're paying them more than surgeons. They're paying them more than doctors. The Prime Minister. It is absolutely ludicrous, and that is where all the money is going. And it's a waste of money. They don't need. I agree with one of the previous caller that said, I think it was Lisa, when she said that we should have a choice about whether watching BBC or not, and then we could actually be able to choose. Whether we want to watch it or not.
Well, I'll bring Eve on this one because obviously a very high-profile daughter is a very high-profile BBC presenter, much beloved, and presenter of Strictly. I'm talking about Claudia, of course. I mean, do you think it's true that BBC presenters or television presenters in general are paid too much, or do you think it's a kind of it's a competitive arena, and if they don't pay the money they pay, they'll go and work somewhere else?
I think I agree with your last point. I mean, of course, there are lots of people. I mean, television used to be, there were 3 stations, the very top, and people used to earn a fortune. I think a lot of people work on TV now and don't earn a fortune. The whole world of advertising, the whole commercial world, the whole competition of TV now has changed all those figures. So I think, I can see why BBC needs its hits. It needs things that will make people sit down. And I think, as we all say, they have people like David Attenborough, which must cost a fortune to fill those films. It's just that BBC is soft power. I mean, if you say BBC to somebody in half of Africa or places like that, or the thing they do, which I used to call Bush House used to do, so that if you live in a country that is run by a despot, you may get an hour, the World Service,
which is the link.
You'll get an hour of proper
Absolutely.
TV once a week.
Let's bring Sarah into this. I mean, you've worked in TV for years, and Frances is saying, the amount of money that presenters and presumably actors do is paid is so huge. Do you think that is true for most people who appear on telly, or just a very, very few?
Not in my experience. I think there are assumptions made about how much actors, that's obviously my profession, earn, and people just assume if you're on TV, you're making a fortune. That is not the case, let me tell you. And that is why actors in between jobs will go and do other jobs. I myself have trained in other things to go and do other jobs to earn money, to know that there's money coming in, to be able to pay the bills, pay the mortgage. So I would like to know where the information is coming from, and definitely over the years, being in the industry for 26 years, I know that the amount that has been paid has actually gone down.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
definitely true.
100%.
Definitely.
I think because they publish that list every year, isn't it? Which is like the top 25, 30 people in the BBC that get paid. And Gary Lineker is like way at the top.
Yeah.
And I think people feel that that's the sort of the gross part.
Yeah.
And I think now that he's no longer there, that probably will regulate a little bit. But you're right. Talent will go elsewhere because a large part of working on the BBC is you can't actually work in any other place if you're working at that level, and you can't do particular brand deals either. So it does separate it ring fences them to work on the BBC as the only employer, and that's why they get paid that much.
All right, let's go to Diane in Warwickshire. Hello, Diane. Thanks for calling. What do you think? Do you think it would be right to give all pensioners a free TV licence?
Hello, Vanessa.
Hi.
Yes, I do. I think if you've worked all your life and you've never claimed for anything, then I do feel that they should be given a free TV licence. I mean, we've worked for that, and we've paid in our taxes, we've paid in our whatever we've bought, we've had to pay extra for. But I think when you reach 81, which I am, I do feel that you should be allowed a TV licence free. I mean, what we're watching on television in the summer isn't what elderly people like to watch, which is mostly sport. And I do feel that they waste an awful lot of money in probably things that they shouldn't.
So Diane, just checking, you're not really getting the sort of choice that you would like, the kind of options open to you to watch, and not even what you really fancy watching. What do you like to watch?
I like to watch, obviously, natural programmes. I do like to watch serials and plays and music. But, I mean, apart from that anyway, I mean, I do like things in general. I'm not against sport, but I do feel they spend an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time on sport and not in general.
All right, well, thank you very much indeed for calling. Lots of love to you. Appreciate the call, Diane. Nice to hear from you.